Welcome to the Folk School on Willow Creek, featuring University Distinguished Professor Tom Ezern, singing and telling stories from the Salon on Willow Creek.
I need a bed for the night, boys, and my horses need hay. I've been riding that road line on the hot dish highway. And so you ask, my little friend, why I'm silent, sad and still, why my brow is always clouded like the darkness on the hill. Run in your pony closer and I'll tell a simple tale of Utah Carl, my partner, and his last ride on the trail. Midst the cactus and the mescal of the Mexicans' fair land, where the cattle roam in thousands, many a bunch and brand, is a grave without a headstone, all unmarked with date or name. There my partner sleeps in silence, that's the place from whence I came. Long we roamed the range together, for we've ridden side by side, and I loved him like a brother, and I wept when Utah died. Side by side we rode the roundup, roped, cut out, and burned the brand. Through the storm and the weary darkness, joined the night herd in weary stand. When the stampede comes so sudden and the cowboys form the mill, there's a ringing voice that's silent. Utah Carl lies cold and still. 'Twas his voice controlled the stampede as it rang out loud and clear. And the cattle, when they heard it, overcame their maddened fear. Every boy upon the cow range knows how bravely Utah died, and they pass his grave in silence, and they speak his name with pride. For he fell as a cowboy should, never blanched or quaked with fear, when he saw the steers upon him, and the rush of death was near. And the rush of death was near. We were rounding up one morning, and our work was almost done, when on the right the cattle started in a wild and maddened run. Then the boss's little daughter, who was holding on that side, started in to turn the cattle. 'Twas there my partner died. On the saddle of the pony which the boss's daughter sat, Utah Carl that very morning had thrown a red blanket that the saddle might be easier for Lenore's little friend. And the blanket that he placed there brought my partner to his end. As Lenore rushed in her pony to the cattle on the right, the red blanket slipped beneath her, catching on her stirrup tight. When the cowboys saw the blanket, everyone there held his breath, for now should her pony fail her, naught could save Lenore from death. Now there's nothing on the ranges that will cause a steer to fight half as quick as some red object when it's weighed within his sight. When the cattle saw the blanket almost dragging on the ground, they were maddened in an instant and had charged it in a bound. Now Lenore saw the threatened danger, quickly turned her pony's face, then in leading from her saddle tried the blanket to displace. But in leaning lost her balance, fell in front of that wild tide. Lie still, Lenore, I'm coming, was the words my partners cried. 50 yards or so behind her, Utah Carl came riding fast, though he little thought that moment the ride would be his last. Many times from out the saddle he had caught the trailing rope, and to raise Lenore at full speed was he saw his only hope. As his horse approached the maiden, sure of foot with steady bound, lo, he swung from out the saddle to catch a child from off the ground. As he hung from out the saddle, every cowboy held his breath, for the feat that he was trying was a feat for life and death. Was a feat for life and death. Though he swung as fast he passed her and had caught her in his arm, when I thought he was successful and was safe from further harm. But such weight upon the cinches had never been felt before, and the hide and cinch snapped asunder, and he fell beside Lenore. As Lenore fell from her pony, she dragged that blanket down, and it lay there close beside her as she lay upon the ground. Utah Carl picked up the blanket, and again lie still, he said, and running across the prairie, waved the blanket round his head. When he started across the prairie, every cowboy gave a cry. He had saved the boss's daughter, but they knew he had to die. He had turned the maddened cattle from Lenore's little friend, but now they rushed upon him, and he stopped to meet his end. Quickly then from out his scabbards, Utah Carl his pistols drew. He was bound to die all fighting, like a cowboy bold and true. And the pistols flashed like lightning, the reports rang loud and clear. But still the herd came rushing, though he dropped the lead and steer. Too quick the cattle were upon him, and my partner had to fall. Never more to cinch a bronco, nor to give a cattle call. There he died upon the ranges, and it seemed most awful hard. I could not make the distance in time to save my part. When we broke into the circle on the ground, my partner lay from a dozen wounds and bruises. His young life had slipped away. As I knelt beside him there, and I knew his life was over, I faintly heard him murmur, "I'm coming, lie still, Lenore." And these were Utah Carl's last words. He had gone that endless trail, and we closed his eyes with reverence while his face grew ashen pale. He had closed life's final roundup at the master's red command, and my tears came down in silence as I clasped my partner's hand. There's somewhere a grand bright future, so I've heard the preachers say, and I think that my young partner won't be left at that last day. And if but an unknown cowboy, he was ready there to die. And I know that my young partner is a home beyond the sky. Got a home beyond the sky. Is that enough ballad for you to start out, folks? Utah Carl. This is one of the proudest discoveries of the Willow Creek Folk School. A year or so ago, I believe it was, Dr. K came across, didn't just come across, was methodically searching for and found this ballad, which has been recorded by various, rich country and western stars. Marty Robbins, most famously, in his Cowboy Ballad, or Gunfighter Ballads album, although there's nothing of gunfighter in this. And people think of it as kind of a soap opera ballad, and they think, oh, that's made up by, somebody in Nashville or something like that. No. This song was written, I know the exact circumstances, by a young fellow named Harry H. Hunt, in Stillwater, Oklahoma, in 1893. His father was a Republican politician in southern Kansas, county officer up in Arkansas City. Well, that was a Winfield. No, Ark City. And like many Republicans in that part of the world, he thought, I might do better down there in Oklahoma as the territory opens up. And so he didn't make the run that I know, but he came in down as the Oklahoma district opened. And then this song was written shortly after the Cherokee Strip was opened in 1893. Did the author of it ever work cattle? I don't know that he did. But the author, Harry Hunt, is definitely identified there. This is one of those we can take right to the headwaters, and there it is. And trace it down. It goes into oral circulation, not much newspaper circulation. The old Cowboy Ballads didn't circulate that much in the newspapers, but it's picked up by the song catchers like John Lomax and the others. And then it's brought down, but none of them knew where it came from. But we know, don't we, Dr. K? Utah Carl. The more recent renditions of it, popular renditions, commonly render that as Utah Carol. And I'm not sure where it became somewhat corrupted. But I'm not sure that Utah Carl would have worked as well on the popular music charts as Utah Carol. It doesn't quite have the same ring. It sounds like that might be, a Swede or something, or Norwegian even, perhaps. Welcome to Willow Creek Folk School number 147. It's been a few weeks for reasons which we're not going to go into too much. Some of them involve travel. Some involve some personal events which have sort of transpired, and we're being held to a closed mouth secrecy on some of these. The news is being controlled access news on this. But for those who know the code, I can give you this much. The Badger has landed. Repeat, the Badger has landed. And this is one reason why, we've got plenty of reason to be in good humor, but that's one reason for us to be in good humor tonight here in the salon on Willow Creek. Before I forget it, however, we will be traveling next week down to Oklahoma and back, and will not have, so no folk school. Folk school number 147 will be in 2 weeks from tonight, not 1 week, right? Mm-hmm. Right. I got it right.
Yeah.
Okay. And before I forget it, we will actually be here on Friday and will not have departed, but we won't be available for the folk school. It's an afternoon and evening devoted to remembrance of our fine old friend John Helgeland. Dr. Helgeland, longtime professor of religious studies at North Dakota State University, personal friend of us and our dogs. I think it's fair to say.
He loved our dogs.
Oh God, he has a weak spot for the beasts. Yes, indeed. Well, okay, it's Cowboy Ballads, I guess. It wasn't entirely starting out intended to do that, but it worked out that way. And I've got, we're about discovering ballads here, If I had to make a living singing, sure wouldn't get far on that. But as a research historian, I can do that. And so we discover these ballads. There's a certain amount of care. Got to be careful not to overextend and think you found something when you haven't, when you're dealing with this variety of antiquities. So I got a story to tell you. It's one I've told for Prairie Public Radio here a week or so ago under the title Queen of the Rustlers, all right? This is the misadventures of ballad hunting. I suppose William Arthur Flowers qualifies as the greatest cowboy balladeer who never lived. His fame flared only briefly in 1927, for this happened in Oklahoma, where historically things come and go pretty quickly. For a while there, the literary lights of the Sooner State were prepared to pronounce Mr. Flowers the authentic voice of the West. The affair began when Benjamin A. Bodkin, a literature prof at the University of Oklahoma, received a surprise package from Mr. Flowers. Botkin was part of an active group around the university and Oklahoma City that was seeking recognition of Oklahoma and the Great Plains as places of regional culture worthy of literary and scholarly attention. Botkin was a leading light in the Oklahoma Authors League. He also was a folklorist who later would compile and publish a treasury of American folklore. Critics then would say he had a fuzzy definition of what constituted folklore. Others associated with the regionalist movement included Walter S. Campbell, also of OU, who wrote under the pseudonym Stanley Vestal, and Zoe Tillman, widow of the legendary lawman Bill Tillman of Kansas and Oklahoma. Mrs. Tillman wrote popular Western histories. So the package contained a sheaf of poems written by this persona named Flowers, which got Botkin pretty excited. Flowers said he was an old cowboy who wrote ballads from his experience on the range. One of them was the Ballad of Cherokee Bill, not to be confused with the real Ballad of Cherokee Bill by the outlaw himself, which I wrote about earlier this year and sang on the Willow Creek Folk School. Another of them was Kinsey, Queen of the Rustlers. Probably by Botkin's initiative, the Rustler Queen Ballad was published in Harlow's Weekly, the Cherokee Bill Ballad in My Oklahoma. These are the leading popular magazines of Oklahoma. Now, I have studied Kinsey, Queen of the Rustlers, pretty closely, and if someone gave this to me as an alleged product of folk composition, I would be pretty suspicious that the rhetoric is too contrived. Botkin, however, was swept away by the popular enthusiasm for cowboy balladry. He chose to make the emerging work of William Arthur Flowers the sole subject for discussion at a meeting of the Authors League. There, the members gushed over the authentic voice of the Western range they perceived in the Flowers poems. However, during the discussion, two stylish young female members, as one writer there recalled, moved uneasily at their places at the banquet table and traced lines on the table linen with their fingertips. Subsequently, the two women confessed gleefully in an article for My Oklahoma. Their names were Maureen Halliburton McGee and Frances Perkins Billingsley. Their names indicate to me these were women of wealth. Following a previous meeting of the Authors League, McGee and Billingsley had invented the persona of William Arthur Flowers and commenced composing ballads under the name, taking turns writing the verses. Their content was inspired by the histories of Zoe Tillman. Their letters to Professor Botkin were written by Mrs. McGee using her left hand to mimic a script from the quavering hand of an old man. The story broke across Oklahoma, across Kansas, coast to coast, and the whole country had a belly laugh at the expense of the intelligentsia of Oklahoma. Published images of McGee and Billingsley with their bobbed hair and their cloche hats made the joke all the better. Evidently, no hard feelings. Mrs. Billingsley was elected secretary of the Authors League, or perhaps the members decided to put her in an office so they could keep a better eye on her. So we've been to Stillwater and we've been to Norman now. And we've been to Belcourt. Now, you might want to say something about this, I suppose, Dr. K?
Sure. Show the spine on that, too.
Oh, yeah. A little bit of book design detail. Take a look at this.
Well, it's a big fat thing.
Inch and a quarter.
This is our newest release, the In Order That Justice May Be Done, about the legal struggles of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa. And we just got it right smack in time for an event last week at Belcourt, home of the Turtle Mountain Band, where we were celebrating Denise Lajemodier's appointment as North Dakota's Poet Laureate. So the book made its debut there. It's a history of her people, of the people up there. from this time period, and it's a scholarly treatment of what was going on at that time.
By John M. Shaw.
By John M. Shaw, yes. Dr. Shaw.
I don't know, Dr. K. A lot of footnotes in this.
There's a whole lot of footnotes.
This is landmark work. I've only begun reading it, but talk about solid history.
Well, I liked what you said about the introduction. You noted that it was masterfully written. I'll take that. I like that.
Well, this guy's grounded. He's been through the archival sources, but he knows the historical context around this subject too. And this cover. You're mentioning details of cover design, but that cover image.
Right.
That's going to sell books right there.
Well.
Those are some badass Chippewa on the front of there.
Now, of course, that image came to us in black and white.
Yes.
And so we should mention that a fellow named Cade Ferris colorized that. He does this kind of work frequently, and it's just beautifully done.
Yeah.
I went to an exhibit of his, it was last winter, over at the Clay County Museum, and saw some of his bigger works of this, photographs that were blown up, but colorized, and you just felt like you could strike up a conversation with that person in the image. And that's how it feels with this image too. Yeah.
Yeah, it just speaks gravitas.
Yes.
Through and through. Well, so speaking of Cowboy Ballads, you got more to say about the press?
No, that's enough.
That's enough from the press this week? All right. Haven't been doing much.
Well, we had such a successful trip out there. I chartered a bus and we took people out. They rode in comfort. We had some snacks and water on the bus and stopped for breaks. And as a result of that, I see a new twist in my career trajectory. I'm being asked to organize some other events. It looks like this summer, in September, we may be taking a charter bus out west, I think to Bismarck, for the powwow out there.
The United Tribes?
Yeah, so we're going to bus people out there for the powwow. And part of that is because we're going to be hosting a powwow next year here on campus. Right. And so they want to take people out, let them see what it's like. And so I have a new portfolio I'm building for planning trips. I guess we've done that before, though.
How do we find these ballads? We're using an awful lot of work in digitized sources, in particular newspapers. And that's a peculiar thing about folk singing on the Great Plains. It does move around word of mouth, and then people bring songs to the literaries out at the country schools, and they sing them there. They pass around at gatherings and that sort of stuff. But the dissemination of ballads goes on steroids when you plant all these country newspapers in every single railroad town, and they're all looking for stuff to publish. So there's a song going around, they put it in there, and then it hops up and down the railroad line, and the exchange connections of the newspapers, and so songs proliferate more quickly in this place than probably ever they had in the progress of Anglo-American culture across North America. So you start to figure out what's the rhetoric of ballads and their catchphrases, some of which go back to English balladry even in the 1600s, but many others that come along. And then things that are borrowed, cliches almost, snatches of rhetoric that are commonly borrowed from popular songs of the day. And you can start searching for those in newspaper columns, and millions of pages there are indexed. And the word lament often comes up. It's a poetic form, it's a song form. A lament, a song in which you complain about things. You tell your sorrows. It's like the Cowboy's lament. But now, although I've done a search for lament of thee as an open-ended phrase, I never looked for the Cowboys Lament, because, okay, the Cowboys Lament, we got that covered, right? As I walked out in the streets of Dodge, by Tom Sherman's barroom, as I walked out in Dodge City one day, that's the Cowboys Lament. Finally here, a couple weeks ago, I began searching for, wait a minute, is there only one Cowboys Lament? Maybe there's another one. And I've got 4 of them now. 4 songs that circulated under the title Cowboys Lament. And the others previously unknown, but of some currency in the late 19th century. So one of them you're about to hear. It's called, of course, the Cowboys Lament. I have no author for this song, but it appears in the Dodge City Globe of the 20th of July of 1886. Again, no attribution, just published in the newspaper. The song is full of a context, however, which we'd remark upon in a minute. You'll figure a lot of that out. But then it gets picked up in the newspaper exchange. Bing, 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 around. And then you can tell that it circulates by more than just newspaper publication because it shows up in Jack Thorpe's collection and John Lomax's collection of Cowboy Ballads. And so it gets out there by word of mouth also. Jack Thorpe calls it, in 1921, The Campfire Has Gone Out, which would be a good title. It's in the song, but its original title, 1886, is The Cowboys Lament. And I'm about to present the original text. There is no tune indicated for this. Perhaps one day we'll find a text of it which says, air, such and such a song, or to the tune of. Haven't found that yet. Well, I wanted to sing the thing, so I wrote a tune. Wish me luck on this. I was saying to Dr. Kelly, the hardest tune to learn to sing, is one that you wrote yourself, I think, because there's no extant earworm. You have to create it. Okay, this is the Cowboys Lament, 1876, from Dodge City, Kansas. Through progress of the railroads, our occupation's done. We put our ideas into words, our words into a song. First comes a cowboy, he's a point for all the West. Of all the pioneers I claim, the cowboy is the best. We'll miss him all around up on his merry shout. The cowboys left the country and the campfire's gone out. No railroad or graders, nor anything to mar our happiness in camping out or traveling with the stars. When I think of the good old days, my eyes do sometimes fill. When I think of the tin by the campfire and the coyote on the hill, imagination takes me back. I hear that merry shout, but the cowboys left the country and the campfire's going out. Your freighters are coming hands, you'll have to leave the land. Can't haul your loads for nothing through 7 feet of sand. The railroad's bound to beat you. Just do your level best and give it to the Granger and pull out for the best. Shake hands before you leave us and give us a merry shout. There the freighter left the country and the campfire's going now. In times when freight was higher, old timers had a show. Their pockets full of money, no sorrow did they know. But oh, how times have changed since then. Your poorly fed clothes, your wagons are all broken, and your mules are almost dead. The cowboy and the freighter will hear the angels shout. Well, here they come to heaven, and their campfires all gone out. Yes, here they come to heaven, and their campfires all gone out. It's not a bad ballad, huh?
It's not.
Okay, you noticed what was going on there, right?
Are you getting some pains?
Yeah, my mother's up there laughing at it right now. We used to laugh at her with her fingers when the arthritis would get in there, and suddenly they'd all lock up. It's kind of tough on a guitar player when that.
But you were doing fine a cappella. It seemed intentional.
Yeah, it was, of course.
Of course.
Think about this song. It's kind of cool here. It's 1876 in Dodge City, and you've got the two predominant groups that made it a hell-raising town at the beginning. First, you got your freighters, and they're working the Buffalo Range. And and there's that reference in there, you can't haul your loads for nothing through 7 feet of sand. What they're talking about is the Buffalo Range in the mid to late 1870s is West Texas. It's out there on Caprock. And they would take that trail out of Dodge City down there to Rath City, Old Reynolds out there in the Buffalo Range. But to get started down there, they had to cross the sand hills south of the Arkansas River. Hence, can't haul your loads for nothing through 7 feet of sand. That's on their mind in this there they go again, that Dodge City Ballad. And then the other group, of course, is Cowboys. And so it's the two of them getting together, well, we're both going to be run out of town. Which, of course, is what happened. And it's not Wyatt Earp that did it, nor let alone Matt Dillon. It's the herd law. You know, it's when the settlers and the business people get together and decided, we're going another direction now. And they would give up on the cattle trade and try to bring in full agricultural settlement, which is what happened. So it's that snapshot. I'm calling it a lay of the land. You know, it's a song talking about consequential changes in the land. So that's a little discovery this week. Now, if I stall a little bit later, tell you about another phase of discovery while my fingers come back into circulation here. What we should do here is have a tub of hot salt water right here, and you drop a hand in there when this happens. Well, in the meantime, we got any friends on the chat line this week, Dr. K?
We do. Our friend Lynn Bueling pops in here. You know, he tells a lot of stories, so I'm just going to point out.
Oh, my. Yeah.
He had some great publications, 2 of them, in the April issue of the Western Writers of America Roundup.
Yep,
So,
yes, indeed.
He's taking a little break tonight to watch the program, but kudos to him for keep storytelling and getting these publications too.
Yeah, we're all in the same business. Attaching stories to the land.
And then a fellow named David Robbins says, "Good to see you, Tom."
Well, Dave, good to see you. Dave, Dave's my age, you know. Dave, do you ever have this problem with your fingers going that way? If you do and got a solution for me, you let me know, all right?
And then someone I don't think we see too often on here, but David Buchanan is watching too.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
That's great to hear.
Now, Marla wrote, your sister-in-law, Marla, wrote Kansas 28 Days. I don't know what that means.
Let me see what that might mean. Kansas
28 Days.
A football game?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
You know, it might disturb her to learn that we really don't follow KU football much here. Yeah, that's a state we kind of skipped. No, we don't. We do, but.
Well, Elroy Alindis thanks you for the shout out too about the barn dance. That's tomorrow on Friday.
No, tonight's Friday. Huh?
I mean tomorrow, the 5th, Saturday. Sorry.
With air conditioning in the loft. Bless your heart, Elroy. and this is a good year to have it.
And he remarks that the young people are finding out how fun those dances are.
Well, yes, I've noticed. The daddy of the songcatchers, who, you know, we're all following in his footsteps, would be John Lomax. And it's because of him that the corpus of Great Plains balladry, such as I would have known it when I was, folky in the 1970s, tilted pretty heavily toward the southern plains and more specifically toward Texas. Whereas, as you can see, Utah Carl comes from the Oklahoma territory, and many a song. I'm just about prepared to argue, in fact, that Kansas is ground zero for the generation of Great Plains ballads, and this is heresy to anyone from Texas. But I got evidence, and unless you got evidence, don't argue with me on that. But Lomax traveled a great deal, sometimes with an Edison cylinder recorder mounted on the back of his automobile. He'd back his car up to you and record your ballads. This is in the very early 1900s. But he also did quite a bit of work by correspondence. And he got help from local collaborators. And some of the things I've been going through, searching through the newspapers, he keeps coming up. And people noting the work that he's doing to collect the ballads of the Great Plains in the early 1900s. So here's a note from the Culbertson Searchlight. Friends in North Dakota here, that Culbertson's straight west from Williston, 40 miles or so into Montana. Cowboy Ballads. The following circular letter from Professor John A. Lomax of College Station, Texas, explains itself. Anyone in Valley County who will send any such songs, poems, or ballads to the Searchlight will receive due credit, and they will be forwarded to Professor Lomax. Now, his letter. The Agricultural and Mechanical College of Texas, College Station, December 15th, 1908. Editor of this Searchlight. For several years, I have been endeavoring to make a complete collection of the native ballads and songs of the West, particularly those known as cowboy songs. It will hardly be possible to secure such a collection except through the aid of the press. For many of these ballads have never been in print, but like the Masonic ritual, are translated from one generation to another by word of mouth. They deal mainly with frontier episodes, the deeds of desperados like Jesse James and Sam Bass, the life of the ranger in pursuit of Indians or desperados, the experiences of the cowboy going up the trail, the trials of the 49ers, buffalo hunters, stage drivers, and freighters. In short, they are attempts, often crude and sometimes vulgar, to epitomize and particularize the life of the pioneers who peopled the vast region west of the Mississippi River. Such early pioneer ballads do exist, he insists. And then he goes on. I like that line, though. They are attempts often crude and sometimes vulgar. And to me, there's a little bit of a twinkle in the eye of Professor Lomax when he writes that to the editors out there, that like it's crude and sometimes vulgar, he hopes. He hopes there. Which means it's the real stuff from the cowboys and the freight drivers. But on the other hand, you see, whoever wrote the Cowboy's Lament that I sang before, that's pretty polished prose there, Professor Lomax. It's not crude, and it's not at all vulgar. Yeah. The next week after that, the editor notes a Cowboy ballad has been received. We'll publish it next week. And then there's in a string of several weeks, there are ballads being published. There's a Buffalo Hunter ballad, which I'll do some future week. It's one of what I know now to be, I have 3 Buffalo Hunter ballads. There is, it's set to the tune of My Old Kentucky Home, by the way. There's a text of what it refers to as Buffalo Home. A home, where the deer and the antelope play. Well, you know what that is, but he calls it Buffalo Home, the informant there. And all the people who brought these ballads in, they're named. And then, okay, I'll sing one of them here in a moment. But first, Dr. Kelly's going to help us out with one. I had to figure out what this was and realize, oh, this is a square dance call. And then I began to research it, and it's known around the American West, but it's a definite Montana call. It's been localized for use in Montana because the first line is, get your little sage hens ready, which means like sage grouse, which are only found Montana, Dakota Territory, Wyoming, in that area of the northern plains. So this is a native ballad of the area. And of course, the prairie grouse, sage grouse, prairie chickens, sharp-tailed grouse, they all do indeed dance as a part of their courtship in the spring. All right. So this is a square dance called Out at a Cowboy Dance. And isn't there something about square dancing in your lineage,
In my lineage,
Dr. K?
yes.
Tell us that.
Well, my stepdad, Ken, was a professional square dance caller. And he and my mom were very much involved in the square dancing groups in Alaska. There were several troops like that, but not only did they dance and did he call, but they also owned a Western wear store that sold all kinds of the frilly slips and all kinds of things that you need if you're going to be a proper square dancer.
See, now I can't read this without hearing it in Ken's voice.
Exactly. Me too, except I won't be able to do it justice. Get your little sage hens ready. Trot 'em out upon the floor. Line up there, you cusses, steady. Lively now, one couple more. Shorty, shed that old sombrero. Bronco, douse that cigarette. Stop your cussin', Casimiro. For the ladies, now all set. Salute your ladies all together. Ladies opposite the same. Hit the lumber with your leather. Balance all and swing your dame. Bunch the heifers in the middle. Circle stags and do-si-do. Pay attention to the fiddle. Swing her round and off you go.
Not bad, Dr. K. And fortunately, the last time we tried to rehearse this a little while ago, I had a dog in my lap who wanted to get in on this thing.
Everybody wants to play.
Students will start clapping, you know, and she takes that as, come here. Well, now here's one more choice piece from what I've come to refer to as the Culbertson Ballads. It's a nest of ballads known to have been current in Culbertson, Montana in 1909. And it includes this one. Oh, you've heard it before, but you haven't heard quite this text of it before. Think my fingers have recovered? Let's see. If not,
We'll see.
we can do without the guitar on this one. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie. These words came slow, mournfully from the pallid lips of you who lay on his cold, damp bed at the close of the day. Bury me not on the lone prairie where the wild coyote howl o'er me, where the cold wind sweeps and the grass is wet, for no sunbeams rest on the prairie grave. Wasted in pain till o'er his brow death's shades are slowly gathering now. He thought of home, of his loved one night, as the cowboys gathered to watch him die. Again he listened to well-known words, to the wind's soft sigh and the song of birds. Thought of home, native bowers, where he loved to roam in the childhood hours. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie where the wild coyote howl over me, with the cold wind sweep and the grasses wave. No sunbeams rest on the prairie grave. I've ever wished when I die, my grave might be on that old hillside, but there the place of my last rest be. Oh, bury me not on the lone prairie o'er my slumbers, a mother's prayer and a sister's tears will be mingled there. For 'tis sad to know that the heart throbs o'er, and that it's found to wash no more. Oh, bear me none on the lone prairie, where the wild coyotes howl over me, where the cold wind sweeps and the grasses wave. No sunbeams rest on a prairie grave. In dreams I saw, but his voice failed there, and they gave no heed to his dying prayer. In a narrow grave, 6 feet by 3, they buried him there on the lone prairie. May the light-winged butterfly pause to rest, or him who sleeps on the prairie's crest. May the Texas rose in the breezes way over him who sleeps in the prairie grave. And the cowboys now, as they roam the plain, for they mark the spot where his bones have lain, fling a handful of roses o'er his grave, with a prayer to him who his soul will save. Wow. Do you think maybe Culbertson, Montana is some kind of a magic place? we gotta swing through there one of these days, Dr. K. Wow. Okay. This hand went out in the middle. And then the three-finger style became a two-finger style for a while, so the heck with it. But you know, that song doesn't need anything with it. Except maybe a glass of whiskey, and I'll fix that in just a little while. Well, our calendar ballad for the week. I don't know, we have any other business to transact here yet tonight, other than again to say no folk school next week because Professor Helgeland's observances, and then we're hitting the road. And but the following week, that would be the 18th of August, we're back here, right?
Right.
Okay. And geez, 3 days after that, we're walking into a classroom. You realize that?
I know. Oh my goodness.
There's a shock. The calendar ballad this week, I don't know. Oh, you know, I got this thing out. I was going to put it up here. Did you ever see an eggplant the likes of that, huh? When you see it's a doppelganger, right? It's a double eggplant. This happens with squash now and then. So I think it'd probably be all right to eat. It's a double one. Mm-hmm. It's not overgrown and coarse.
Yeah.
But it's a huge,
It's a lot.
it's a huge eggplant, which reminded me of a song. You know the song?
A song about eggplants?
Oh, yeah.
Au Bean?
What song kid we used to sing that? You better watch out for the eggplant in Chicago, for he may eat your city soon. You don't know that?
I do not know that.
You better watch out for the eggplant that ate Chicago. If he's still hungry, I don't remember how it goes. If he's still hungry, the whole country's doomed. Something like that. Well, anyway, that's a heck of an eggplant, isn't it?
Waxing eloquent to the eggplant.
The garden's kind of the thing around Willow Creek here these days. I think we probably got more garden than anybody in the neighborhood around here. What do you say, Dr. K? Probably anybody, more than anybody else but the Department of Horticulture at NDSU around here, I think. So this is this ballad precipitated just a couple of hours ago here at the dining room table where Dr. K is sitting now. The Parable of the Garden. Some of you of Lutheran proclivities, perhaps even Episcopal, will recognize the inspiration of the stanzas, but then it kind of drifts off of the subject a little bit here. And I don't know if I got a guitar playing in me or not, but it doesn't really matter. Huh? This is the Parable of the Garden. Wait a minute. Okay, here we go. Now there once was a sower, he went forth to sow. His seeds were the finest, but some did not grow. Blackbirds and finches just gobbled them up. Some fell on the hard pan and never came up. Now it's one for the blackbird and one for the crow, one for the cutworm and one for to grow. Plant a row for the rabbits and one for the deer. Whoever has ears for to hear, then let him hear. There came a hot, dry spell, some seedlings were beat, or were smothered by Canada thistles and cheat. Against all the odds, though, it rained in July, and we all celebrated with a Juneberry pie. Now it's one for the blackbird and one for the crow, one for the cutworm and one for to grow. Plant a row for the rabbits and one for the deer. Whoever has ears then to hear, let him hear. The tomatoes were eaten by cutworms and deer, but there's always zucchini, so you never fear. It's a parable told that never gets old. It fell on good ground and brought forth 60-fold. Now it's one for the blackbird and one for the crow, one for the cutworm and one for to grow. Plant a row for the rabbits and one for the deer. Whoever has ears then to hear, let him hear. With the deer in the end will play. One for the blackbird, one for the crow, one for the cutworm, and just one to grow. Put a row for the rabbits, one for the deer. Whoever has ears, let him hear. Where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy, are uncloudy all day. skies are not cloudy always. Dr. Kelly.
We now conclude today's edition of the Folk School on Willow Creek. We invite you to join us again Friday, August 18th, 8 p.m. Central Time, for more songs and stories.